Hello and welcome to yet another exciting episode of Entrepreneurs Lounge, the show that highlights success stories of young entrepreneurs who are making it against all odds. And as usual, we're shooting our daughter's home and exclusive furniture in Westlands off Parklands Road. Now, my first guest is one with a very impressive story. At just 18 years old, Mirage started a soccer academy, and he's here to tell us all about that. You're very welcome to the show, Mirage.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
18 years old. Very, very impressive.
Thank you.
I really, really want to know how you did it and why a soccer academy. What's your story?
Okay, so I'm a passionate footballer. I've been playing football all my life. I love the game. I love the sport. I've had the privilege of playing at Gorma here, at Kariobangi Sharks, and for the Kenya under-20 side. So in 2014, I wanted to make a change, but I wanted to make a sustainable change. I'm sure you've heard of the saying, if you give a man a fish for one day, he'll eat. But if you teach a man to fish, he's going to eat for for their lifetime. So I wanted to do something sustainable, and I wanted to make a long-term impact. So what I did, I identified a need and combined it with my passion to help the community. And that's how it began. So my mom is a big inspiration. She has her own charity organizations that she runs. And one day when I was dropping her at Kibera, I sat and I saw these kids playing with a polythene bag football, and I saw they didn't have shoes, they didn't have clothes, but all they had was a passion for the game. So I wanted to help them, and I thought that if I just gave them football boots for a day, it's not going to help them much. So I decided to set up an academy where we could offer skill, mentorship, groceries, academic support, and much more.
From what you've said, this is something that's clearly thought out, and it obviously has a target, but you're 18 years old. I'm sorry I have to dwell because I'm really, really very impressed by this. And you've mentioned that this started 4 years ago. So obviously it can't have been easy. I mean, starting up something like this is difficult for a 30-year-old, for a 40-year-old. You did this at 14 years old. I really want to know the process. And also this is just to help another 14-year-old out there who's trying to do it. How did you go about it?
Okay, so the first thing you need to do is you really need to be passionate about what you're doing. You have to breathe it, you have to live it. It has to really be part of your life. And then you have to be so passionate about it so that your work doesn't feel like work. It feels like something just natural to you. So how I started was you have to start small. So I started at a small school in Kibera, and it just started small. We were training about 16 boys. It started from there. I started on a budget I didn't have a budget, so I started on zero budget, and from there we grew and grew and grew. So you have to have the passion for something. You have to set up a 10-year program, and you ask yourself, where do I want to be in 10 years from now? And then you work towards that.
So where do you want to be 10 years from now? Now that you've mentioned this, 4 years later, you said you started small. In fact, you'll tell me like the progress that you've made so far. But now that you've brought up the aspects of, you have to have a vision. 10 years from now, where do I want to be? Where do you want to be?
So 10 years from now, I want to have a leading academy in Kenya, and I want us to be a talent hub, okay, where we can create the next professionals for the Kenya national team or for players to go abroad. Because what our main aim as an organization is to help young children escape the vicious Kenyan poverty cycle. And one of the best ways to do this is if they become professional footballers, they can start earning salaries, and that way they become self-sustaining. So that's the aim. So 10 years from now, we want to have our own ground, our own like semi-stadium where players can study. There's like a school where players can study, a boarding school, and facilities for gym. We focus on their nutrition. So we want it slightly big, but we want to focus on a more national approach rather than a Nairobi approach only.
So the dream is obviously a big one. And also you mentioned that you do a wide array of things from mentorship, to all these other things. So I would like to think this is one of those things where you have to partner with other people to do some of these things. How do you go about like finding the right people who with the same ambition and vision as you to somehow make your goal come to life?
To be honest, it's been very hard to find people that have the same vision that I do. So I've had to recruit staff. So we have about 9 staff at the academy at different departments. So one of the things that we do when we recruit our staff, we try to make sure that they're passionate about serving the community, they're passionate about football, and most importantly, they're knowledgeable. So yeah, it's been quite difficult finding people with the same passion, but my mom and dad have really helped.
So away from just like, obviously finding people with the right vision to, work with, what would you say have been some of the other challenges you've encountered? Again, you're a young man.
Yeah.
So obviously, like there's certain things that come your way that you feel like, oh my God. So what would you say have been some of your greatest challenges in these 4 years to where we are now?
Funding is a big challenge. So we're a full non-profit academy. We don't make any profit. So funding has been a huge issue. For some of the ideas, it takes much longer than it would for a business, for example. Like if we want to invest in something, we have to like think a lot more than a general business would have to think. The other thing that has been a challenge is the mental aspect of things. So we deal with kids who are really vulnerable, and we have certain stories which are really touching and personal. So it's really challenging to try to offer personal support to these kids. Like for example, we have kids who've lost their parents, so now they're in a dilemma like where do they stay, what do they eat. So those kind of challenges are very prevalent, and it's quite difficult dealing with the mental aspect. And yeah.
Mirage, I'm very interested in knowing about your growth journey because you mentioned that one of the first areas you saw that where there was obviously a need was Kibera. Yes. So from when you say working with Kibera, how much have you grown since? Like maybe who are you targeting? Who else have you onboarded? What has been the growth journey like for you?
Okay, so we started off in Kibera in 2014. We ran the team there for about 2 years, and then in 2016 we moved out of Kibera. And what we wanted to do was we wanted to offer support to the different informal settlements around Nairobi. So in 2016 we started incorporating children from Mathare, children from Dandora, Kariobangi, Kibera as well, and Gashie. And we used to bring them together, and that way we'd try and tackle like tribalism. We'd try and encourage equality, and we'd also be able to offer like a wider range of support to a greater number of people. So yeah, so we shifted to a central location where the boys would come and train. And in Kibera, I had one team, and then we grew up to having 7 teams, from under 7 all the way up to under 19. And yeah.
So Cheyenne, 4 years into it, you've obviously achieved. I mean, you've moved from Kibera to signing up other Gashie, Dandora, Mathare.
Yeah.
However, with the people that you've onboarded, what sort of benefits, what sort of results are you seeing from, your project that you feel like, you know what, this was totally worth it. This is exactly why I wanted to do this.
So our main, let's say, profit would be the impact. It's not really the monetary side of it. So throughout the years, one of the biggest things that I'm really proud about is just getting the kids out of the informal settlements area, keeping them away from things like drugs and the vices that are prevalent in these areas. Yes. So just keeping them away and giving them a platform just to enjoy themselves, have fun, and de-stress. It also improves their mental well-being as well as their physical well-being and social well-being. But throughout the years, we've had like some really good achievements. We've had players play for the Kenya national team. We've had players who are currently at Premier League academies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we have a boy at Kariobangi Sharks. We have a boy at Gor Mahia Youth. Yeah, we have some playing at nationwide level. We've had players play for the Kenya national team at under 13 and under 15 levels, as well as the under 20 levels. So it's really rewarding when you see someone you've worked with for all this time. You've invested in him, you've trained him, you've worked with him to go on and play for the national team or play for Premier League teams. Because then from there they can support themselves, they can support their families, and that's for us is a bonus. It's a win-win.
Shine, you really do need to give yourself a pat on the back every night before you go to sleep. Because if you don't know it, you are really doing amazing things. Maybe not just for yourself, but even for the community. However, as an entrepreneur who started as young as 14 years old, usually when you get into that space, you get cemented and you have the dream gets much bigger. Mm-hmm. Have you tried out your hand at other things away from the soccer academy?
Mm-hmm. I think I like focusing on the soccer part because it's my passion, like I said, and I believe that if you're passionate about something, it's gonna work.
Right.
Yeah, you're gonna just have these automatic ideas when you're like doing anything. You're just gonna be thinking about it, and boom, you're gonna get an idea on how to improve. But to make the academy self-sustaining, we set up a merchandise, kind of a merchandise shop for the club. So we have like hoodies, t-shirts, and bracelets, things like that. So whatever we collect from the sales goes towards running the club. In addition to that, we have a soccer schools program where we train privileged kids, and they pay a small fee, and in return it goes directly into paying school fees or buying food for the boys that we work with.
Would you ever try out your hand at employment, knowing what you know right now? Do you think you're in that space where you'd want to be employed, or you're very content, like this is enough for you, changing the world, one football player at a time?
That's a good question. I think I'd want to be employed at some point just so I can learn, but I enjoy running my own academy. I'm able to provide a more direct impact, and yeah, it's more satisfying and fulfilling, yeah, and less limitations.
Keep doing what you're doing. Well, that's it from my first guest, Cheyenne Mirage, a very young guy who's trying to make an impact in the community and doing it exceptionally well, and in his own words, finds it truly rewarding. Do not go anywhere, because when I come back, I have more from my second entrepreneur, and we'll also be back with a quick fire round. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Entrepreneurs Lounge. Now, my next guest is 23-year-old Sheila Wamandi, who started out as a painter in school, only to later realize she was so gifted and decided to turn it into a fully blown business. You're very welcome to the show, Sheila.
Thank you so much.
Amazing work you have here, but I'm sure you already know this.
Yeah.
So you're a painter?
Yes, I do paintings. I paint mostly females. Yeah, because I like to bring out the women and, yeah.
How did you start out? How did you end up deciding, you know what, I am going to be a painter?
Well, from back in my childhood, I've always wanted to do art. But it came to a time where if I'd get bored, then I'd find myself drawing or painting. So somebody told me, what if you do it as a hobby? Like, can you start doing it like for real? So I bought paints and I did my first sketch, and it was amazing. People loved it. So I was like, I guess I can do this.
Okay, so take me back to when you're in school. Now you're doing this as a course, right?
Yeah.
And then you realize, I can actually make money off of it. What was that first painting that you sold? What was the turning point? At what point did you realize, you know what, this is actually something I could do as a career that could make me money?
Yeah, so what happened, I bought a few art supplies. So it was just a sketch. I had pictures from Pinterest. So I took this photo and I painted it. And it turned out so awesome. I posted it on WhatsApp. And then a classmate of mine was like, how much are you selling this? I was like, it's not for sale. And he was like, no, I want to buy it. And I was like, how much do you want to buy it? She told me 2,000. And I was like, okay, fine, you can have it. And that's when I realized, yes, I can do this and make money out of it. Yeah.
So from that moment in time to where you are right now, talk to me about the journey. Then how then did you go about promoting yourself, increasing your sales? Just talk to me about your story and the journey from where you started at that point when someone offered to buy your painting at 2,000 shillings. To here we are now. You're with me on Entrepreneurs Lounge talking about your trade.
Well, after she bought a painting, I went and joined some guys who are doing art. I joined their studio. They taught me how to make blends, how to mix colors, and they gave me their supplies for free. I'd use their supplies for free, and I started selling there at the shop. So from then, I started making myself realizable to a lot of people. I put my name out there. I made arts for free and gave to people, so people came to know about me. So sometimes I even receive calls from people in abroad. They're like, are you a painter? Yes, I was referred to you by someone who was referred by someone else. And then I get to paint paintings that even go to places like West Virginia.
Right.
Yeah.
You mentioned the first painting that you actually sold, the one that you were offered 2,000 shillings.
Yeah.
It's because you posted it on WhatsApp. Yeah. A classmate saw it and picks up interest. Now, I would like to know, especially with people in your age group, you see a lot of attention being placed on social media, especially to promote products, whether a makeup artist, whether a painter like you, whether a hairstylist. What role would you say social media has played in your business, if at all?
Well, actually, social media is where I mostly sell my paintings. Like, if I had started a shop at Raka, but I got that I was incurring a lot of losses. So I closed it up and focused on social media. So I have a page on Facebook, Instagram, I post on WhatsApp. My friends, when they see my post, they also distribute the post. And social media is actually my platform where I'm able to sell my art. Yeah.
So you mentioned you made losses,
Yeah.
which is a very big part of a lot of entrepreneurs' journey. Now talk to me about some of the challenges you've encountered on this path to being a full-blown entrepreneur and how those have affected your business.
Well, you see, the art business, it has a lot of competition. You see a lot, and people are making very poor art, if I can say, and selling them for very cheap prices. So I may sell this painting at my cost, but there's someone else who has done it cheaply with cheap canvas, and then will sell it at a price like 700. So if a person comes to my shop and sees my cost and goes to another person and sees their prices, of course they'll go to, yeah. So that's actually a big challenge, and also competition, where a lot of people are painting. They're everywhere. There are people in Masai Market, Kenyatta Market, so many painters there. There are also a lot of galleries, Zarit, Village Market. So before you get yourself recognized and people can actually look for your art, it's quite a big challenge.
Right. Yeah. So even with all that you've said, what would you say have been some of the vital lessons you've picked up? You're still young and you're obviously still growing in the industry. Yeah. However, you do have experience and you've sold a few pieces. Yeah. What have been your greatest lessons that you would say have shaped who you are and even how you view your business?
Well, I'd like to say I like doing what I want. I create what I like, because if I create something that is relative to people, people can relate to, maybe it doesn't come out as good as
right.
I want. So I've learned to always do what I want and to push hard and have hope in my business, because it's the only thing that keeps me going. Yeah.
5 years from now, where do you want to be?
Well, I want to have my own art gallery, which I hope it will be recognized all over the world. I want tourists from abroad to come. If they're coming to Kenya, they're coming to see my gallery. Yeah, my name to be known everywhere. Yeah, that's where I'm headed.
So you, obviously, the difference between you and other entrepreneurs is you leveraged on your talent. You took advantage of your natural ability. A lot of people who we see go into entrepreneurship, it's because they have a startup capital, they want to work for themselves, so they'll pretty much figure it out as they go. You've been lucky enough to be good at what you do and end up making money out of it. So what would you tell a young entrepreneur out there who's trying to do this? How much does talent play into actually making you a successful entrepreneur?
Well, talent, you should just grow your talent, create like you've never created before, because there are so many opportunities. You just have to do you and be yourself, because nobody else can be like you. So if you do you and be yourself, your art will sell, and you will find yourself that opportunities are actually finding you right where you are.
Do you have any mentors in the industry, and how have they been helpful in hand-holding you and just making this happen?
Yeah, well, I have my art family. It's in Juja. It's called Marangi Mia. They held my hand when I started this and have been with me through it and have taught me everything I need to learn. Yeah, until now I am here.
Welcome back to Entrepreneurs Lounge, and without wasting too much time, we'll dive right into our quickfire round. Now, Cheyenne, Sheila, this is our hottest round in our show. What happens is I'll ask you random business trivia questions. For each question, you'll have 10 seconds to get the answer right. The person with the correct answer gets a point. At the end of the round, the person with the highest correct answers will be our quickfire winner. This is a title that people fight for on this show. You want to be the one. And usually I root for the girls. Sheila, don't let me down. No pressure. Okay, so I'm getting right into it. Quickfire question number 1. Red, white, and which other color feature on the Pepsi logo? Red, just shout it out.
Blue.
Okay, fine. But a point to both of you. The answer is blue. Question number 2, Lego. You know Legos? Like those things like which you step on and then you feel like, that's it, I'm going to meet my creator. Lego, the toys. Lego comes from which country?
Germany.
No.
Britain.
Close though.
Britain.
No.
Switzerland?
No. Denmark. Lego comes from Denmark. So 1 point to both of you. You need to catch up. Besides Apple, what other company was founded by Steve Jobs? Besides Apple. It's not very common. It's not very mainstream.
Macintosh? Or is part of Apple?
That's part of
Yeah,
Apple.
I'm not-
Should I, besides Apple, which other company was founded by Steve Jobs?
I don't got anything.
Next. The company is called Next. Yeah. Okay, let me give you a really, really easy one. South Africa. It's the world's leading exporter of what?
Apples.
No, come on. Egoli, you remember Egoli, city of, it's a mineral. South Africa is known for what mineral, guys?
Gold?
Yes, gold. A point to Cheyenne. South Africa is the world's leading exporter of gold. Final question. What is the oldest airline in the English-speaking world? The oldest airline. I'll give you a hint. It's an Australian airline.
I'm gonna guess, but Air Australia.
No. It starts with a Q.
Qatar.
No, close. It's an Australian airline that starts with a Q. Qantas, guys, Qantas. The world's oldest airline in the English-speaking world is Qantas. So that's 5 questions, 5 answers. Cheyenne has 1 point ahead. Sheila, I really wanted you to have this one, but our quickfire round winner is Cheyenne.
Congratulations.
Well, that's all the show I had for you today, and that was Sheila, who started out in school but decided I can make money out of it, and through her talent grew it, got a support group, and made it happen. And you've also heard from Mirage, who at a very tender age of 14 saw a need in the market, decided to help youth out there, and through that has also developed himself. So if you're a young entrepreneur out there wondering, can I do it? Let Sheila and Mirage's story be one that inspires you and motivates you. That's it from me, Ingrid Nantege, on this episode of Entrepreneurs Lounge. We'll be back with more next week, every Monday on Metropole TV. And as usual, we've been shooting at Dotage Home and Exclusive Furniture in Westlands of Parklands Road. Have a very beautiful evening.